Then our next speaker will be ZHAO Sumeng. Are you online?
Hi, hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Then we're not seeing your slides just yet.
Sorry. Yep. Can everyone see it? Yeah.
It's loading. Yes. Okay, we see your slides. Please take it
Yeah.
away.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sumeng ZHAO, and from King's College London, and I'm very honored to participate in our GachaCon. And today I will present my research titled "The Character Design in the Natlan and Sumeru Region of Genshin Impact: A Visual Semiotic Analysis from Critical Transculturalism Perspective." Well, my presentation will be divided into 5 parts. So let's start with my research background. My research focuses on the cultural hybridity in Genshin Impact. And first, as a market-tested approach, the familiar cultural elements in video games are used to invoke players' sense of identification, while unfamiliar elements are employed to stimulate their desire for exploration. And second, Genshin Impact is clearly a beneficiary of cultural hybridity strategy. Its environment, architectural styles, and the character design are all inspired by our real-life cultures, like Li Yue was drawn from China and the Fontaine from France. However, when it comes to the regions of Sumeru and Natlan, this cultural hybridity strategy have sparked some controversy. And during the Sumeru's release, many players have criticized that the character skin tone do not match the real-life Middle Eastern populations. This issue have reached its peak with the release of Natlan, with about 130,000 of players signed a joint petition calling to stop the cultural appropriation and whitewashing in MiHoYo games. This petition highlighted not only the skin tone of Natlan characters, but also the numerous instances of cultural appropriation in the region. And in the same time, the commercial performance of the Natlan have also declined. And I think maybe the cultural hybridity strategy may be one of the contributing factors for this phenomenon. I introduced 2 theories into my research. The first one is Roland Barthes' semiotic analysis approach. It reveals how the visual elements are naturalized into aesthetic common sense. And this essay focuses on the visual design of characters. And the Barthes model is widely recognized as particularly effective in explaining the cultural meanings carried by the images. And credits critical transculturalism moves beyond a simple Western or non-Western binary. It emphasizes the translocal interactions and the Genshin Impact as a non-Western cultural producer. It offers a valuable case to study hybridity and power in global media. So by applying the Barthes semiotic approach and with the aspect of transculturalism, I have 3 research questions. The first one is, to what extent do the character design of the Natlan and Sumeru regions deviate from the authenticity of their source cultures? And the second, do the strategy of cultural hybridity lead to a flattening or cultural specificity? And how does the Genshin Impact balance commercial goals with the cultural complexity in a global market? In the methodology section, I defined the research subject as 24 playable characters from Natlan and Sumeru. And during the data collection, I observed that the components of the costume design are often hardly to distinguish clearly. So to ensure that the collected symbols are sufficiently comprehensive and objective, I established the 3 principles shown in the right-hand side of the slide. And furthermore, by referring to the character design guidelines in Genshin Impact developer logs, I categorized the collected elements into 5 types. And this approach can help me ensure that no visual details are overlooked during the collection process. In the semiotic analysis stage, the denotation layer serves as the first level of examination, and Bartes argues that the denotation refers to the objective content which can be directly observed by all viewers. It's a level not influenced by the observer's cultural background, ideology, or social identity. And to address the question of to what extent the character design deviate from the authenticity of their source cultures, I categorized the symbols at this stage into three types, like the original, hybrid, and fictional signs. For example, the eyes of the Horus on the hood of Sinos is directly derived from the ancient Egyptian civilization and can be considered original. And Candice, her shield combines the Egyptian lobewing totem with fictional desert king technology in the game and can be viewed as hybrid. And elements like visions are entirely fictional. So to fully adhere to Bartes' principles of avoiding subjective interpretation, I relied on reference from the ancient archives of SOAS to verification at this step. So that's to make sure it doesn't reflect my own opinions. At the connotative level, I analyze what the symbols signify and how the ideology, power, and culture shape their meaning. And at the myth layer, I examine how these meanings are naturalized into common sense. So let's break down the key findings from my 426 collected symbols. First, on the cultural grounding, about 66% of the symbols linked to real-world archetypes. They suggest a strong cultural reference. And however, a closer look shows that 17% of these symbols are either stereotypical or come from unrelated cultures. And on fictionalization, more than half of all symbols contain fictional components. And in practice, this often means designs lean into sexualization or some familiar ACG aesthetics rather than deepening the cultural narrative. Let me use Cheska as an example to explain. Cheska is an animal character in the game with an adult female character model. She serves as a mediator from Flower Feather clan tribe. She's known for her free-spirited personality and formidable strength. The figure on the left is my process of deconstructing her visual symbols. At the denotative level, her design incorporates motifs such as Andean condor and the elements of Inca gold and a blend of ranger and cowboy accessories, which collectively presents with a visible hybrid composition. In the connotation layer, I tried to relate the character design with its cultural background. On one hand, the use of the Indian condor and gold ornaments come from Inca civilization and fostering cultural identity for Latin American players and showcasing the game's ambition to highlight the underrepresented cultures in the world. And on the other hand, her design incorporates cowboys and ranger symbols together, like her hat and her pistol. Historically, the cowboy is linked to the colonial expansion and the marginalization of native communities. It visually blends the North and South American motifs together, but in doing so, it may erase the historical conflicts and contradictions between these traditions and reducing them to a generic and marketable Americana. Finally, we come to the analysis of the myth layer. My first observation is the collage logic and the aesthetic inertia of the ACG style. In terms of the archetypal cultures, Genshin Impact often assembles elements from various minority cultures in a seemingly arbitrary manner. For example, many characters are named from deities from their source cultures, and their narratives or visual design have no connections to these deities. Like Kinich, his name is named after the sun god in Maya, but the character itself shares no ties with these deities. As for the non-prototypical cultural elements, my analysis revealed that about 70% of the design components directly reference cultures unrelated to the character regions. For example, the Hias braces incorporates Western mercenary elements, and this phenomenon may be linked to the historical development of the ACG culture. The visual aesthetic influenced by Western style and inherited a kind of visual grammar over time. And at last, such elements often serves to fill gaps in design, even when they contradict the themes of the source culture. And however, all of these designs is just the product of visuals. It still hasn't reached the narrative layer. My second finding is the overlooking of the technological foundation of the source civilization. I observed that the fontaine distinctly incorporates precious mercenary and steampunk styled designs. All these elements closely tied to the historical development of the French technology. But in Natlan, the technological advancement often takes the form of modern technology, like the Shiloni placed as a DJ or Mahuika riding a motorcycle. The cultural projection and the reconstruction undertaken deliberately and purposefully by powerful agents. This is essentially an intentional act of hybridity. On one level, this reflects the developer's intention to engage with the marginalized civilization and conveys a vision that every culture possesses the right to prosperity. However, at a deeper level, this approach also risks the cultural flattening. It reveals a lack of imagination with the diverse pathway to prosperity, and showing that modern technology is a universal solution. My third point is that the spatial comparison of the civilization, the map on the right-hand side provides a rough representation of how the 7 nations in the Genshin Impact correspond to our real-world regions. And in fact, the fontaine largely represents France. Liyue corresponds to China, but Sumeru represents much of the all the Islamic world along the parts with parts of the Africa. And the Natlan incorporates elements from over 9 cultural sources. While this civilization may share certain origins, but cultural hybridization itself is often complex to deconstruct. This approach subtly implies a hierarchy of civilizations. It reflects which culture and the developer thinks are worthy of more extensive portrayal and mirrors the contemporary global cultural hegemony. Well, the research have several limitations. So, well, to conclude, Genshin Impact character design reveals how the cultural hybridity can enable global appeal, and by applying a critical transcultural lens, I can see how the power, aesthetics, and market logic interact in digital cultural production. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions in the room? I can, yeah. You want to start?
Yeah, okay. I'm just thinking more about the 3 different types of symbols you've got there. And I'm wondering whether there is a 4th type, which is something that has some historical sources, but has since been manipulated or changed by other cultures in the meantime. But now might feel as if it is part of the original, but really it is something somewhere in between. Does that make sense?
So do you mean you think it could be have the fourth type, like it generates some of the
Yeah, so it's something that is not a prototype anymore because other people have changed it already for their fictional thing. But this has been done for hundreds of years. That it feels like it is still. It might feel like a prototype to us now, but it is not. Does
Yes,
that
that's
make
what
sense?
yes, that's what one of the finding in my research. But I haven't listed as a fourth. I don't know how to say the fourth category.
Could you
Because
give us an example?
like yeah, I said the. Let me. Sorry, give me a moment. Yes, like her braces is it blends the mercenary style and desert king technology in the game. You know, I think it's the mercenary style could be shown in her braces. I think because it's inherited from the ACG style aesthetic grammar. It have been used for a very long time. So even when the Dihia comes from Africa regions, but she still uses some of the Western fantasy elements into her character design. I don't know if it's helpful for you.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Do we have any other questions from the room? In that case, I will ask a question. Oh, sorry. Who am I ignoring here? Okay. Shall I? I have a question. Yeah. Okay. I'm using my position as a chair to ask a question. So one of your conclusions was that there was a loss of cultural depth and neglect of historical context and conflicts in Genshin Impact based on the connections to the real-world prototypes, right? How is Genshin Impact any different in what it does here in comparison to other games who also connect, who have these real-world prototype connections? Isn't this just a common thing that what games tend to do, or media in general tend to do?
Yeah, I think that's why I introduced Credit's transculturalism into my research, because I think it's a good example that to show the dialogue of the global South cultures, because it's a Chinese game. It's not how the Western world to tell the stories of those underrepresented cultures in the world. It's how the Chinese developers to want to tell the stories about those Africa cultures and Islamic cultures. So I think it's different from any former games.
All right, thank you. We still have some time. Do you want to ask your question?
You're late.
Okay, we have someone else.
Hi. So firstly, that was really great. It's actually something I've been thinking about for years, so it's really great to actually see someone talk about it. It's more like a comment than actually a real question, because I want to say that I think even though it is made by Chinese producers, I think it is a very global game, and you'll be playing the game and you'll see biryani come up as a food. And I feel I do think there is a sense of responsibility to actually what you're presenting, what Genshin presents. Because out of all the 5-star characters, there's only one character who's actually dark-skinned, and that's Dea. And she's not even in Natlan or anywhere else that's supposedly affiliated with darker skin tones. So I just feel I think what you're doing is very relevant, and I do think there's a responsibility. Like in yesterday's talk, we had one about an airship being sent out as a form of protest because of people feeling that they have a right towards the game as a consumer. With a global game, surely you should cater a bit more towards your global audiences and be a bit more considerate towards that. So I just want to say I feel like what you're doing is very relevant. That's it, really.
Thank you. Thank you.
Then we're running out of time, so thank you so much. One more round of applause, please.